Pixar, Pixar, Pixar. Are there films we've seen more times? From our countless rewatches, Pixar's films have produced enough laughs, tears, and scares to power all of Monstropolis. But in those repeated viewings, we get so caught up in our favoritism that we can look over mistakes in the smaller details. That's why we're taking a look at 25 of Pixar's weirdest mistakes, from their biggest blunders to their smallest inconsistencies. And just for fun, we're gonna try and come up with explanations for them all, using evidence from the movies.
Whose idea was this?
First off, we're looking at one of the best of Pixar's recent films, the masterpiece known as Coco. Through all of your tears, it may have been easy to miss a peculiar aspect of Coco's set design, but in looking for it, it's pretty clear. In several of Coco's key scenes, the layout of the Rivieras' home is entirely different. It's as if the entire home has been mysteriously rearranged. Easy mistake? Maybe, but we have a potential explanation. If Miguel's abuelita Elena hates music, then she must have other hobbies. We feel that one could easily be interior decorating, meaning she's constantly overhauling the floor plan of Miguel's house. It's the only explanation for such weird continuity errors. Okay, here's one for the history buffs. If you don't recall, Brave is the tale of Princess Merida, a free-spirited young girl in medieval Scotland. Merida has a bad relationship with her controlling mother, Eleanor. A key symbol of that control is Merida's corset, which literally restricts her movement, suffocating her and her desire to explore. Only one problem. That corset would not have been invented until the 17th century, nearly 100 years after Brave takes place. Our explanation? Remember the witch Merida meets in the forest? The one that some fans have speculated is a dimension-hopping version of Boo from Monsters, Inc.? Well, looks like she stopped by the 17th century on the way to the Middle Ages, and she brought corsets. Our next mistake has to do with Kevin, the memorable fowl who encounters Carl and friends in the masterpiece called Up. So, what's the mistake? It comes with the reveal that Kevin is female, which makes perfect sense, unless you're a bird expert. Apparently, Kevin is based on the Himalayan monal pheasant, a Nepalese bird with bright-colored feathers. Not only that, Kevin is clearly modeled on the male of the species, meaning the reveal in the film makes no sense. Until you consider this. Kevin is a widower, a single dad who has been watching his nest after the death of his mate. Not only does that work biologically, but it makes for an interesting parallel with Carl's journey of grief. Okay, so as beautiful as Up was, one question was on all of our minds, right? Could you really lift a house using only balloons? The answer, it turns out, is yes, but sadly you'd need way more than Carl was using in the movie. According to Pixar's own research on the subject, more than 100,000 balloons would be required to lift a house of that size off the ground. For the film, the animation team only animated around 20,000. Why'd they do that? Well, apparently the shots with that many balloons looked too crowded. That makes a lot of sense, but we think there is still a possible explanation. 80,000 balloons in Carl's attic. You're welcome, Pixar. You may see this as a nitpick, but we have a bone to pick with Pixar's 2007 masterpiece, Ratatouille. Specifically, it's in the choice of headgear from Gusteau's assistant chef, Colette. In the movie, Colette rocks a motorcycle helmet for her first scene, then never wears it again. Now, it could be a sudden disregard for her own safety, but we have a more compelling answer. Colette's helmet was stolen by a hyper-intelligent rat who dreamed of motorcycle racing. Now he's able to covertly pull the hair of the fastest racer in town, resulting in the exciting spin-off, The Rat and the Furious. If you like that joke, please like and subscribe. If you didn't like that joke, please like and subscribe. Since the climax of Finding Nemo takes place in Sydney, 42 Wallaby Way specifically, we have never thought twice about the Australian accent spoken by Nigel, the heroic pelican who helps out Marlin and Dory.
Oh, Nemo? Hey, he's that fish, you know, the one we've been talking about, the one that's been fighting the whole ocean.
But those pesky bird experts have informed us that Nigel's design is actually based on an American species of pelican, one not typically found in Australia. So, what gives? This one is obvious if you ask us. Clearly, Nigel was a massive fan of the Crocodile Dundee series as a young pelican and dreamt of visiting the land down under. Before immigrating, however, he spent years attempting to emulate Dundee's native accent.
G'day. Big Dundee from Australia. How are you?
Personally, we here at ScreenRant think we nailed it. One of the more dramatic scenes in Finding Nemo finds Marlin and Dory navigating a field of jellyfish. It's a great scene, but we, as fish experts, have got a question. Shouldn't the effect of jellyfish tentacles be a sting rather than an electric shock? The shocks even come with zap sound effects. Don't worry, we have an explanation covered. Turns out that was not a field of jellyfish, but actually a field of electric eels and big hats. Each jellyfish is actually 4 eels, playing a version of the two kids in a trench coat gag. We know, it's obvious, but it's our job to explain this stuff. Everybody remembers the whale sequence from Finding Nemo. It begins with Dory's memorable impressions and ends with the gross but practical escape with Marlin. However, there's something about the scene you may not have considered. The lighting of the scene. Namely, how is there any? Why are we able to see the characters in the belly of the beast? Shouldn't it be pitch dark? Oh, but we've got this one covered, friends, don't worry. The whale has recently swallowed a bunch of those creepy fish with the lights on their heads, and some of them are just off screen, a little lower in the whale's belly. Talk about natural light. Here's an interesting one. Remember that big scare board from Monsters, Inc.? The one that Sully and Randall were always competing for top spot on? Well, here's an inconsistency we bet you never noticed. Every scarer on the board is listed by last name, except Randall. What's up with that? Is Randall's name Randall? We'd be able to accept that, but the movie keeps telling us his last name is Boggs. So what's the deal? Well, it's pretty clear to us that there is another scarer named Boggs, and they just used Randall's first name for clarity's sake. Here's a blink and you'll miss it moment from Monsters, Inc. A disappearing newspaper on the stoop of Sully and Mike's house. Disappearing objects are common in animated films, and since it took us so long to notice, we'd let it slide. If we didn't have the perfect explanation, that is. The clear answer here concerns our friend Randall, aka Randall Boggs. See, it's well known in the monster world that Randall is a huge cheapskate, and not one to pay for any subscriptions. With his camouflaging skills that make him near invisible, Randall is not above stealing the occasional periodical. This next mistake relates to the character of Boo, also from Monsters, Inc. Midway through the film, it's revealed that Boo's laugh and the laughter of all children is a powerful energy source in Monstropolis. When Boo laughs the first time, it triggers a powerful surge across Monstropolis. But when she laughs in Monsters, Inc., the effect is much more muted, just a few flickering lights. What's going on? Well, we've actually got a simple theory for this one. We think that Boo's laugh is much more powerful as a natural, unstressed laugh. When she's laughing in Mike's apartment, she's much more relaxed than with Randall, causing her laugh to be much more powerful. This is a subtle one from the beginning of Toy Story 2. In this scene, Ham and Rex watch a commercial for Al's Toy Barn, after which Ham abruptly shuts off the TV. In the moment where we can see the black screen, we cannot see Rex and Ham reflected in the screen, which we clearly should be able to do. An explanation? You know we have one. Clearly, Ham and Rex have become vampires in the time between Toy Story films. While their plastic bodies allow them to stay alive in direct sunlight, they are consumed by a taste for human blood. This one is more of an odd character choice than a straight-up mistake, but we think it's worth mentioning. At the end of Toy Story, the gang has picked up several new additions. Jessie, the yodeling cowgirl, Bullseye, and the 3 green aliens. When Andy sees those new additions, he excitedly exclaims, "New toys!" He picks up Jessie and Bullseye, but not the aliens. In fact, he completely ignores them. So what's with Andy? Why doesn't he notice his new neon green friends? Well, here's our take. Andy likes very much to keep his toys on theme. As evidenced by his hat in this scene, Andy is in a Western phase at the moment and wants to hold off on any sci-fi themed play sessions. This moment comes from what seems like a throwaway line in Toy Story 2, but which we think could actually dig deeper into one character's psyche. Near the middle of the film, the toys arrive at Al's Toy Barn to rescue Woody. Mr. Potato Head then tosses off the line, "We're not preschool toys, Slinky." In fact, according to another line earlier in the film, ages 3 and up, it's on my box. Mr. Potato Head is a preschool toy. Did the filmmakers miss this? We don't think so. We think Mr. Potato Head is keenly aware of his status as a preschool boy and is in the midst of a mid-pretend life crisis. Insecure about his status as a real toy, Sir Potato chose to take his anger out on Slinky. This one is for the real nerds out there. It comes from the iconic opening of Toy Story 2, which features the Buzz Lightyear video game in all of its glory. Well, we could hope a game that looked that good would grace our screens in 1999, but we can't help but notice this sequence would never play on an SNES, the system Andy appears to have.
Not today, Zerg.
The same console that ran Yoshi's Island would never be able to handle anything even close to a Pixar film. So how was the SNES able to run such advanced hardware? Well, the trick is that Rex is not playing the SNES at all. Buzz is actually just playing episodes of his TV show and attempting to trick Rex into believing it is a video game. Sneaky Buzz. This next oddity is from an early Pixar film, A Bug's Life. The climax of this film finds the heroes trying to avoid the wrath of an angry bird, while the villain, Hopper, is eventually fed to her babies. But those ever-vigilant bird experts once again noticed an inconsistency in the design of these flying friends. The babies are clearly chickens, while the mother is modeled after the more colorful chaffinch. So what happened? Our money would be on good old-fashioned bird adoption. These chicks, having escaped from a farm, turned to the modest chaffinch with no place to go. And thus, an unconventional family was born. Keeping on the Bug's Life track, we want to take a look at the character of Gypsy, a moth and member of the heroic circus troupe at the center of the film. Gypsy is not on screen much, but her appearance brings up some questions. Gypsy appears to be female, but only males of her species have wings, causing bug experts in the audience to scratch their heads. So, what's with Gypsy? Well, our theory is common sense, to say the least. We think that Gypsy is not in fact a moth, but instead a pretentious mosquito in disguise with some prosthetic wings. But those aren't the only questions we have about Gypsy. Another concerns the patterns seen on her wings throughout A Bug's Life. As the film progresses, the pattern and more specifically the coloration of the dots change wildly. What could explain these wing-based shenanigans? The only natural explanation is simple. Gypsy is wearing a set of elaborate capes, partially for flair and partially to prevent discovery that she is secretly a mosquito. As she puts these various capes in the wash, the color of the patterns will occasionally fade. This leads to the inconsistent coloration seen in the film. One memorable gag from A Bug's Life follows worker ant Flick to a bar. A bug bar? Whatever. While there, he finds a drunk mosquito ordering a Bloody Mary. This raises two questions. Number one, where is the bar getting a supply of blood? Number two, according to bug experts, only female mosquitoes suck blood, so why does the voice of this mosquito appear to be male? Well, the first one is easy. A resourceful bug clearly opened the bar under a blood bank, making any mosquito a loyal customer for life. And as for the second, we're not so sure that that is a male mosquito. Our guess is it's a female mosquito that is constantly burping, pushing its voice down a few octaves. While we're talking memorable jokes, we should mention this goof from the first Pixar film ever, the original Toy Story. In an early scene, Mr. Potato Head rearranges his face in a bizarre fashion and says,
Look, I'm Picasso.
It's a great joke, but leads to an odd moment a second later when, in a wide shot, Potato Head's face is instantly back to normal. What happened? Well, this may seem outlandish, but is it possible that the second Potato Head is in fact Mrs. Potato Head in disguise? We know Andy isn't supposed to have her yet, but could she have snuck in there, disguised as her husband, and then slipped into the shadows? Another one that went over our heads but was caught immediately by the dinosaur experts in the audience, this next mistake also comes from the Toy Story series. This one pertains to Rex, the beloved character and T-Rex toy. Apparently, any real T-Rex, which Rex is assumably based on, would have only 2 fingers instead of the 3 he rocks throughout the series. How can we reconcile this? Rex is an error toy. On the assembly line, he was accidentally given an extra thumb on each hand, making him an anomaly in his own toy line. Going back to Mr. Potato Head, who is apparently the source of a lot of animation mistakes, we have the peculiar case of his eyebrows. PH's brows are not a separate accessory like his mustache, and we kind of just assumed that they were part of his eyes. We only just noticed that Potato Head's brows straight up disappear whenever his eyes are removed. The explanation? The brows aren't accessories at all. They're actually very small black caterpillars. They like to rest immobile on Potate's forehead, but scurry away whenever he gets too close to noticing. During the creation of A Bug's Life, a glitch in Pixar's animation program caused some rocks from the set of Ant Island to start to float. Though it was a mistake, the team thought it looked cool and used the floating rock effect for the opening of Toy Story 2 using the rocks as meteors. No explanation needed here, folks. That's just a great story about how mistakes can lead to the most creative of solutions. This is a really interesting moment from the first Toy Story. Eagle-eyed fans spotted a funny piece of animation during the scene where Buzz discovers his crashed spaceship on Andy's bed. Buzz says, "Blast, this'll take weeks to repair." But if you watch closely, you can see that his lips actually mouth dang instead of blast. Did Pixar decide dang was too strong of a word? It seems that Buzz was getting really into ventriloquism and doing a complex vocal warm-up that made it hard to see what he was saying. This strange mistake occurs all throughout the first Toy Story and is easy to ignore until you notice it, after which it becomes impossible. This one concerns the blinking patterns of Buzz and Woody, specifically that they blink one eye at a time. This is obviously an effect of the technology at the time, but it's unsettling nonetheless. We warned you, try and unsee that terrifying effect next time you watch Toy Story. Can it be explained? Of course! Woody and Buzz are made of an old industrial glue that makes it difficult to close their eyelids. Each blink requires a tremendous amount of effort, and the dreaded double blink would cause even more. There, makes perfect sense. So that's our list. Had you heard about these mistakes before? Are there any we missed? Did you buy our explanations? Let us know in the comments and subscribe to ScreenRant for more great videos on Pixar and beyond. Thanks for watching.